Hello A&P students, my name is Eric Barn, and today I just want to go over some tricks to learn your internal and external intercostal muscles as well as your deep back muscles. So if we start with your internal and external intercostals, we can just go over these bullets real quick. So our internal intercostals are going to aid in forceful expiration. So I like to do the action when I think about the muscle. So again, internal intercostal, forceful expiration. So if you forcefully expire right now, then that will be your internal intercostals. And then if you think about your external intercostals, those will aid in forceful inspiration. So if you take a deep breath in, that will be your external intercostals. So we can also say that expiration will depress the ribs and inspiration will elevate the ribs. And I like to pair up these terms by their prefixes. So external intercostal and expiration have the same prefix, but external intercostals won't aid in expiration. Internal intercostals will aid in expiration. So I like to think of them that the prefix will pair up with the opposite prefix. So internal is expiration and external is inspiration. So now let's move over to the next picture here. So this is just a visualization of your internal and external intercostals. So you can see the fiber direction here. And I have a tip for you guys to remember the fiber direction here. Just let me switch over to my camera real quick. So now if we think of the fiber direction for our internal and our external intercostals, they both run obliquely, but they run differently. So if we start with the external intercostals, what I like to think of is putting your hands in your pockets. So the fiber direction, if you're putting your hands in your pockets like this, the fiber direction will run like this. So from lateral and superior to inferior and medial. So that is our external intercostals. And then for our internal intercostals, I like to think of putting your hands like you're praying like this. So the fiber direction will run like this. So it will run from inferior and lateral, and then superior and medial. So again, that's hands praying, and that's internal intercostals. So now that we've got that tip, let's hop over to our deep back muscles. All right, so now let's start going over our deep back muscles. So all of these muscles have defining characteristics listed on the slide here. So the most important characteristic here is that all of these muscles will originate from a transverse process and they will insert onto a spinous process of a different vertebrae. So now if we look at each different deep back muscle, if we remember the mnemonic sum more ragu, we can remember these muscles. So we have semispinalis, multifidus, and then rotatorius, both longus and brevis. So now we can see that the first S in that mnemonic is semispinalis. It'll cross the most vertebrae, being 6 to 8. Multifidus being the M in the mnemonic. It'll cross 4 to 6 vertebrae. Rotatorius longus will cross 2 vertebrae, and rotatorius brevis will cross 1. So in that mnemonic, sum more ragu, we can say that semispinalis crosses the most, multifidus the second most, and then rotatorius the least. So now let's go to the next picture here. We can visualize this a little better. We can see the multifidus and the rotatorius pretty clearly in this picture. So the multifidus, being the longer of the two between multifidus and rotatorius, is right here. And we can see that running over numerous vertebrae here. And then if we look at rotatorius, we can determine longus versus brevis. So if we remember, brevis will only cross 1 vertebrae, so this will be brevis. And then rotatorius longus will cross 2. And we can see that right here. So now let's hop over to visible body so we can visualize this just a little bit better. So now that we're here in visible body, I will point out some of our deep back muscles. So I've dissected a fair amount of the back here already, but if we look on the left here, we can see our semispinalis muscle. And you can see it now. So we can see that it's spanning a pretty good amount of vertebrae, and it'll span 6 to 8 vertebrae again. So if we just follow this, we can see that it spans quite a lot of vertebrae. Now, if we look on the right here, we can see multifidus, which is right here. And multifidus will span a couple less vertebrae, but it will still span a decent amount of vertebrae. So again, if we follow one of these fibers here, we can see that it'll cross a pretty good amount of vertebrae here. It'll about 4 to 6. So now if I hide multifidus, our rotatorius should be deep to this, and we can see this right here. So now I want you guys to try to point out which one of these would be rotatorius longus and which would be rotatorius brevis before I give away the answer. Now remember, rotatorius longus will cross 2 vertebrae, and rotatorius brevis will only cross 1. So I'll give you guys a second to figure that out. Okay, so let me point out rotatories longus first. So this will cross two vertebrae if we remember. So if we start here and we follow this muscle here, we can see that this will cross two vertebrae. If we select it, we can see that all of these are actually rotatories longus. And then rotatories brevis, again, will only cross one. It will just be the other one that's a little bit shorter here. And this will be rotatories brevis. So this is all I wanted to go over this week with you guys. So good luck on your exam this week and have a great rest of your week.